Hi guys from London, it's Bob and Ramon here again. I should say Ramon and Bob, it's his guitar show. We're going to do a little video today following up some of the ones we've done recently. Thanks for all your views, keep watching. In all honesty, this video is going to be a little bit of a placeholder. I'll explain why, because it'll be of interest to some of you I'm sure, but maybe a bit more limited than some of the stuff we've posted before. But I'll tell you at the end why it might feel like a placeholder. Today I'm going to run through 5 guitars I own, which are basically, I call them my pointed guitars, but they're basically Firebirds or Explorers. So they're from that kind of era, late 50s, early 60s, originally invented by Gibson. Don't worry, I'm not going to show you a 1958 Explorer. I wish I could. I don't own one. I would love to, but that's worth more than most people's houses. So that's a bit silly. What I'm holding today is right at the other end of the spectrum. This is a guitar made by Tokai. It's actually made in China. It's about 7 or 8 years old. It's quite a young guitar, and loosely it's a copy of a Gibson Firebird 1. The original Gibsons, the first run of Firebirds, leant this way. They were known as reverse guitars because they lean in the wrong direction. And the Firebird 1 had a single closed top small humbucking pickup and a wraparound bridge like this, just a volume and tone. This is Tokai's copy of it. It's called an FB1, and it was actually a friend of mine bought it off somebody else, some bloke in London, a few years ago, and then he ended up selling it when he wanted to fund the purchase of a rather more expensive guitar. So I bought it off him for what it cost him, £200. I thought it was rather a bargain. It's not worth very much more than that, but it plays like a dream. It's got a big fat neck, beautifully dressed frets, quite big, and it plays wonderfully. The only thing that I've done to it, of any note, is that the pickup it came with was really quite horrible. It was a cheap Oriental, two single coils put together into a humbuck, a ceramic pickup, and it really was a bit shrieky and very microphonic. So I asked Matt Gleason at Monty's Guitars, who winds incredible PAF pickups and Strat pickups. I asked him if he could fit a P90 style pickup into this. So this really is a bit of a mongrel guitar because it's, first of all, it's like a Gibson type copy of a Firebird, but secondly I've messed around with the pickup. So you might recall that the later Firebirds in the 60s, they had P90s, and they were much warmer than the original Firebirds that were really shrill. So this is a warmer sounding Firebird. The other thing that's funny about this guitar is, I'm not sure if you can see it, the body is made up of 5 or 6 laths of wood laid together, compressed together and glued together. The line joining these laths of wood is not aligned with the guitar. They're actually squiffy, they're askew. They're actually that angle. They got that angle across. So the body is 5 or 6 slabs of wood, not even lined up. The neck is a classic neck tenon join, so it's not a through neck like a Firebird. And as you quite rightly pointed out, the bottom of the heel is actually a piece of wood scarfed on, and the headstock is scarfed on as well, in good Oriental style. It's beautifully finished. I'm not mad about cherry as a finish, but I think it's quite pretty. But
were they original like that? I don't think.
No. I mean, I'll get a more real-looking Firebird out in a moment and show you. But this anyway. I thought I'd start with this because this is just a great fun guitar.
And the machine heads are not the banjo ones, are they?
No, they're not. But that's okay because by this time, in the later Firebirds had the machine heads further towards the edge, and they had the regular tuning headstocks as well. Yeah, it was only the first run that had the big clunky banjos. Yeah. So that's that. So would you like to be my guitar stand in case we decide playing it? There you go. So that's a Tokai.
It's not heavy, is it? It's not a heavy guitar, is it?
It's one for you. No, it's very comfortable. And
is this pine? Could that be pine?
It could be anything. It could be any old bits of wood, you know. Yeah. Just to get round the lawsuit, by the way, this point is slightly too big and too fat.
Right.
If you compare it to, I'll tell you what, let's compare it to a Firebird. Right.
So what guitar is this, Bob?
Okay, this one is a Gibson Firebird. This is a reissue. It's a historic reissue from 2012. The story around these is there's a dealership in Wisconsin called Dave's Guitars. He's got an amazing collection of guitars, vintage guitars. and he decided to commission an order with the Gibson factory of about 100 Firebirds. Firebird 1s, 3s, 5s and 7s, all the original style, reverse. This is one of the Firebird 1s. This came to me from a very good friend of mine who is a very, very serious touring guitar player and sideman. He has played for many of the greats. He's a wonderful guitar player and a fantastic guy. And he, one of his little signatures is Firebirds. So somebody out there might know who I'm talking about, but I'm not going to name him. He phoned me one day and he said, in buying some Firebirds, I've rather overshot. I actually bought a few more than I want. Do you want to buy one off me? And I said, well, I don't know. I quite fancy a Firebird. I never had one. So anyway, I went round to his place and he had 2 of these. And it was remarkable because normally any 2 guitars, they're not identical.
Right.
You know, you get 2 reissue Les Pauls today, 2 Stratocasters, 2 Tellys. It made the same factory, same bench, same afternoon. They're not identical. We couldn't tell the difference.
Wow.
So I ended up buying the one with a tiny little blemish in the wood here.
Knot.
Like a little knot. I've then put these 2 dinks in, which I'm really pissed off about. But
You should see my guitars.
anyway, this guitar, it's half a pound lighter than that one. It's very light, big neck, much bigger than an original '64 Firebird one. Really big neck.
What year were the single pickups made up until?
They were made '63 to '65,
right.
And then the Firebird became non-reverse, so this bit was longer and this bit was shorter.
Right.
P90s instead,
glued
in rather than through neck.
That's right, because the video I just done of Brian Jones, Gibson, I think it was in '66, Gibson gifted him a Firebird 7. So maybe that was the last.
Well, so the Firebird 7 from this era, '63 to '65, amazing thing. It's got 3 pickups, live vibrola piece, you know, the bent spring thing, 4 knobs, really elaborate, top of the range guitar, most expensive solid Gibson made in those days. The Firebird 1 was the bottom of the range student model, so a bit like a junior. But of course the Firebird 1 is the one that's become most famous. So the most famous Firebird 7 player would probably be Phil Manzanera with his red one, which is a hell of a piece. I mean, that guitar's worth £25,000-35,000 because it's
on all the hits,
immaculate on all the hits, and it's a very rare colour. But the most famous Firebird one is of course the one that Eric Clapton played with Cream, particularly on their American tour. There is an amazing piece of video on YouTube. If you type in Clapton Dallas sitting on top of the world, it's not the complete song. It's only about the first minute and a half. For me, it's, you know, I like old Clapton a lot, and this for me is the most outstanding piece of playing.
Wow.
One of my top 5 pieces of guitar playing ever. So look at it on YouTube. It's breathtaking. It's not a great recording, but the guitar playing is off the planet. Anyway, he played a Firebird one, made them famous. So I ended up picking up this Firebird one. This is quite an expensive guitar. It's a kind of £3,000 guitar, so it's expensive modern guitar. Plays great, sounds fantastic. It's a true Firebird, so this is again, this is a mini humbucking pickup without adjustable pole pieces. And Firebird pickups were very shrill. Always, these kind of pickups, they're very, very sharp because they were competing with Telecasters and Fenders in the early 60s, which were really bright guitars. Couple of things more to say. One about the pickups. It's an unusual guitar. This run of 100 guitars, I am told, I don't know whether it's just bullshit, but that it's the only run of guitars that's ever left the Gibson factory without Gibson pickups. Right? This is a Lola pickup, and apparently they specified Lola's Firebird pickups in that run of Gibsons. And all the ones I've seen, the models I've seen, so I've seen 2 7s and 3 1s, and they've all got this Lola pickup in them. I don't know what Gibson were thinking. They let guitars out of the factory without their pickups because it's unusual. Maybe it was just a really big order or something, I don't know. But these pickups, the Jason Lola's pickups, are fantastic, and this is no exception.
That's quite interesting, isn't it?
So this is a great guitar. The only thing I've messed around with is, as you can see, it hasn't got the banjo tuners. It's got my beloved Steinberger tuners on. I've of course kept the banjo tuners in the case. They weigh a ton. They mean that the head on the guitar drops. So when you're playing live, it's constantly looking for the floor, which is just a nuisance. You can correct it if you move the button at this end. If you move the button further up, it corrects it. But that you've got to drill a hole in the guitar. Don't want to do that.
Right.
So that's that. So this is a proper recent Firebird one. I have had the opportunity to play it right next to my friend's 64 original, which is mint, even to the point where the plastic hasn't cracked.
Wow.
You know, that usual thing. Really mint. And this holds its end up really, really well. It's a great guitar.
And what's interesting about this, Bob, is it actually got a 5-piece neck or something? Is it?
It's
laminate.
I also have to count them. There's one, then there's a little fillet, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think there are 9 pieces of wood.
Wow.
Across it, but it is a through neck.
Right.
Construction.
And that was like the same as on the original?
Same as on the original.
Okay.
So that's that. That's the second Firebird. What I might do is I might just rather than play this, I might just get another one out as well,
okay.
For illustration. And we're jumping about a bit here. Right. Again, a keen eye might be going, geez, that isn't a real Firebird one in poly gold, is it? No, it isn't. It isn't.
So where was this made? What's the story about it? Tell the story about this one.
Okay, so this guitar, this is a very recent, I think it's 2017. It's a Joe Bonamassa Treasure. So Joe Bonamassa was lent an original 64 Firebird
Great
one.
guitar player, Joe Bonamassa.
Reasonable player.
Great
Got
guitarist.
a finger or two to spare.
Red hot player.
And he loved this Firebird so much, he talked to Gibson and Epiphone and said, I'd like you to do a limited edition run. I'd like you to make a copy of it. So that job was given to Epiphone. Okay, remember Epiphone is the lower end Gibson brand, right? And the job Epiphone did on this guitar is utterly remarkable.
It is. I mean, just looking at that and looking at this looks, sorry Bob, this looks real cheap.
It does. It's cheap red, isn't it?
Yeah, this looks horrible. That looks amazing.
I mean, this is a beautiful colour. They also make this in sunburst, like the one I've just shown you, and their sunburst is almost identical.
So this is a Tokai made in China, and what's this with this made?
I think this is Indonesian.
Right.
It's Oriental.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I mean, the thing is, I was having a conversation about this with my friend this morning, in fact. I mean, if you think, people say, oh, it's made in China, but China goes back thousands of years. They were building amazing works of art 5,000 years ago.
When we were pushing stones around.
Yeah. So it's like it's part of their culture.
Oh yeah. No, they can. Yeah. But I mean, there's a lot to say for the fact that they can make almost anything, but they can't imagine very much.
Right.
Having said that, that's not true in tech.
Right.
Look at all the crap that's going down about do we or do we not take Huawei's technology for 5G? Yeah. Telephony at the moment, and all the governments getting the knickers in a twist about whether or not to allow Chinese software because it could make us pervious to espionage in future, all the rest of it.
But going back, sort of thousands of years ago, that they were known for their works of art. Amazing.
Indeed.
So, and when we came after these.
We came way after.
So
Johnny come latelys. But anyway, so that's a Chinese. This is Indonesian. But these were put on the market originally about 18 months ago for about £500 price point.
So are they still making them?
Well, they made a run of 1,000.
Right.
And that included the gold ones and the sunburst ones. And they
Joe Bonamassa got a royalty of $10. He would have made 10 grand off them.
I mean, well, look at the £500.
Maybe $50 he made.
Well, maybe he made $50. So I mean, he would have made some money, but he wouldn't have made a fantastic amount of money. Anyway,
I think he's done the quality control on it himself, and he's done a bloody good job.
He said he did. These things, they retailed just over £500, and what happened was that they sold out really quick, and some retailers realised what they got and they held them back. So now, if you want to find one retail, you're going to spend $750, $850.
And they're worth it.
And I got very lucky. I found this one. A friend of mine phoned me up and told me there was one in a retailer. I drove out. He didn't want a lot of money for it because the guy had apparently just bought it to make a video.
Right.
Just posed in front of a video, and then he just got rid of it. So I picked this up. Again, I've put my beloved Steinberger tuners on it.
Yeah.
The pickups in these are not as sharp and bright as real original Firebird pickups, but everything else is authentic.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic. It has the sound, it plays like the wind, and it's cheap.
So guys, if you see one of these, just buy one, and I think Joe Bonamassa should give us a free one for advertising.
You haven't got one of these yet?
I haven't. No.
Well, I think
so. Joe Bonamassa, if you're watching, please come on.
So should we play something?
Yeah.
And then we'll move on to a couple of other pointies.
So let's do an Robert Johnson. Oh, this one sounds neat, doesn't it?
It sounds neat. I mean, I'm not sure if it comes across in the video. This is slightly darker sounding. This is the middle sounding one. If I got the Gibson back out, it would be the sharpest of the lot.
Should we try the Gibson and the Epiphone?
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
So if I give you this one.
That.
The thing about these guitars, you've got to be careful that you don't bash this thing against walls and doors.
Oh, this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you've got nearly a foot of wood going on behind you here. When you play them, when you gig them, they're long guitars. They're kind of funny, but they do look bloody cool.
Oh yeah, they do. Yeah. So let's try these. So let's try B flat. Wow, yeah, so
that you can see that's a bit sharper. I mean, you're playing through a cleaner amp, I've got a bit of drive on, but that's a sharper guitar.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to be, I guess you'd have to really sort of play with a bit of the tone control, I would, to get it from there to...
I usually play with it on about 6. My mate plays his Firebirds on 3.
On 3, yeah.
Which is really restrained. But the one thing that's interesting about these sharp Firebirds is when you put them through an amp with good drive, like one of these Mystics or something, it's the extra treble really gives the drive a different character. It doesn't make the amp any more shrill. Right. That's set by the amp's own tone structure, but it does give it a bit more interestingness and sizzle at the top end, and that you get some real detail out of it.
And the thing is, Bob, some people say, well, I don't like it because the neck's too long. 5 minutes and you forget that it's a strange shape.
It does, but it does feel as if the whole guitar, the whole active surface, is a bit over there.
Yeah. So you almost have to bring it over.
Yeah, I mean, whereas you're used to kind of playing something here, it's like over there.
Yeah,
isn't it?
it is.
But you get used to it quickly, and they're dead cool. Anyway, but this one, bravo Epiphone for this guitar. For a cheap guitar, cheapish. It's
a great finish.
It's remarkable guitar.
Yeah.
Remarkable guitar.
Brilliant.
So those are the slightly pointed guitars. Let's get something out with a sharper point.
Yeah.
And we've got 2 Explorers here. Well, of sorts. Neither is a real Explorer. I'll explain what we've got. I'll start with this one. This guitar was made for me in about 1979, something like that, by a lovely man called Kevin Aram, who was, at the time, he was just starting up as a luthier, bit hand to mouth, making guitars for people out of a little workshop up in Barnet, North London. And a friend of mine who was in a band trying to, set out and make big, got him to make him a rather beautiful black Flying V with a mirror guard, very, showy guitar. And I liked that guitar so much that I went to see Kevin, who his workshop was next to the rehearsal space, and I said, would you make me an Explorer? So he did. So this is a luthier-made guitar in the shape of an Explorer.
And did this guy go on to do any other stuff? Did he become a name?
Yes, he is a very big name, but he's not a big name in electric guitars.
Right.
He's a big name in classical guitars. He's one of the most famous classical guitar makers, and his speciality is he makes classical guitars incredibly delicate, very light.
What's his name again?
Kevin Aram, A-R-A-M.
Right, okay.
He's based in Devon, near Torrington. Beautiful part of the country. And he makes guitars, he specialises in fruit tree woods.
Wow.
So pear, cherry, stuff like that, which is, the thing about fruit trees is they're not very big. If the trees aren't very big, you don't get big planks. So just getting a surface for an acoustic guitar.
And this is very much a kind of a classical guitar sort of ornate sort of thing here.
Yeah. So this is not made like an Explorer. It's made like a Firebird because it's a straight piece of maple. It's actually 2 bits of maple going straight through. No scarfing, just 2 bits of maple. And then the sides are mahogany. A nice little detail is that the control plate on the back, the wood follows it.
That's really
beautifully made.
Yeah.
Quite as was the way back in late 70s, early 80s. It's quite a thin neck. It's quite skinny.
With all the brass fittings, which you had back in those days.
Brass nuts, typical.
Yeah.
But having said that, this was originally a hardtail guitar with one of those adjustable fine-tuning stop tail pieces, and then I made a really bad mistake. I put a Carla on it.
Right.
Carla trem.
Yeah.
Great big piece of machinery. Even had the little palm pedal as well as the vibrato. Completely sucked the tone.
Right.
Just the guitar was like playing a rubber band. It was just dead. Mm-hmm. So,
because some people prefer them, don't they? I think was it Eddie Van Halen? Did he use a Carla? Oh no, did he use a Carla?
Well, somebody does. I can't remember who, but Carla,
Jakey Lee. I think it's Jakey Lee.
Okay.
Maybe Ozzy Osbourne's guitarist. I think he used.
I mean, Carla, like everybody else, eventually they took a license for Floyd Rose. So Carla make Floyds, like Jackson make Floyd Rhodes, and you know, everyone makes Floyds now under license. But at the time, the Carla was a great big thing.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of mining went on in the wood here. So the guy who is, I think, without doubt, Britain's best luthier, Bill Puplett, very kindly fixed this guitar for me. Actually, a strange story about that. I took the guitar to Bill, and I said, Bill, I've got a strange job for you. I want you to get the Carla off it. And his eyes lit up. And he said, I don't believe I'm seeing that guitar. I know this guitar. Well, you can't know this guitar, you've never seen it. And from the back, way up high in his workshop, he dug out the original template for this guitar. Turns out he's a lifelong friend of Kevin, the maker.
Right.
He said, I've always wanted to meet this guitar.
Really?
He knew about it for like 25 years.
So did he do the jig? Did he design the jig for
it? So no, Kevin just gave him the template, and Bill never throws anything away.
Are these Bill Lawrence pickups?
No, these are good old-fashioned 80s Dimarzio Super Distortions.
Oh wow!
Right, with 12 adjustable pearl pieces in each one. Mental, and it's classic wiring. You know, there's nothing funny, out of phase, or all the rest of it in them. Just tone and volume, and stuff. Right. One of the nice design touches on the guitar, I don't know if you can see it, is I've got a Strat jack plate in here.
That's a good idea, isn't it?
It's a really good idea. Lately, I've seen a few other makers do, but I mean, this guitar predates that by
ahead of its time.
35 years.
Yeah, and it's got a beautiful ornate finger. What is it? Ebony.
It is ebony, so it's probably going to be a nightmare if I want to sell it or ship it anywhere.
And real mother. Yeah. Real Avalon line, whatever it's called. Yeah.
So this is. I mean,
was it expensive? For the time.
Quite. You could probably pick up a decent SG in those days for about 300 quid, and this was probably 400 quid.
Wow.
So it's quite an expensive guitar. But you know, and made for me, and it was my main, you know, gigging guitar for quite a long time.
Thing is, Bob, I often see kind of sort of 70s handmade guitars on eBay going real cheap. And you know, if you do a little bit of research, you can get some real bargains, you know.
Well,
you know, by going that route.
Candidly, I mean, you know, this guitar doesn't get a lot of action from me, but every time I do play it, I like it, which is why I keep it. The other reason I keep it is I could not sell it for firewood. For that exact reason. I'm sorry to be blunt about it. It's a masterpiece. It's a beautiful piece of kit.
Yeah.
But there are many beautifully craftsman-made guitars from the 70s that you can't burn.
No.
Right?
So what's the story with this one?
So that's that. But this is an interesting guitar, and it's a great rock guitar. It really screams. Now this one is much more recent. This I've had about 2.5 years, and this looks and feels exactly like a 1958, 59, 60 Carina, Flying V or Explorer. So those are the guitars. There were maybe 3 or 4 dozen Explorers ever made. There were less than 100 Flying Vs ever made at the time. Back in the day, I mean, remember that the Les Paul, the Sunburst Les Paul and its family, they were discontinued in 1960 because they weren't selling. If you think about the Carina guitars that were introduced in '58, the futuristic guitars, the Flying V and the Explorer, They just died. No guitarist wanted to go near them, and they ended up being shop fittings for dealers, literally shop fittings. So that bit of futurism did not work. They absolutely died in the marketplace.
If only we knew now.
If only we knew. And as a result, very few were made because it was such a flop. And so, of course, the combination of the fact that they are incredible guitars, very modern to play, wide, flat, incredible sounding, very loud, beautiful voices, and the rarity means that a Flying V is going to set you back 300,000 more than Les Paul. And an Explorer, if you can find one, is going to set you back whatever you can think of. $500,000, 600,000. One went for $1.2 million in the States. Insane money.
Yeah.
Right. So this is a Carina Explorer, but clearly there's a lot of things wrong with it. It's only got one pickup. All Explorers had two. It's got a wraparound tailpiece like a Junior. All Explorers had a Tune-o-matic and a tailpiece. It's got two knobs. And it's also got Dwight on the headstock. So some of you will know that Dwight was a sub-brand of Epiphone, which by then were made by Gibson in the Gibson factory, and specifically made for a retail store in Midwestern America. I think Dwight was actually the name of the son of the store owner.
Right.
And the original Dwights, there are about 100 of them, are rebranded Epiphone Coronets, so that's an Epiphone Les Paul Junior, and they are very sought after by collectors because they're bloody good guitars and because they're rare because of the Dwight name. Right. There was another bunch of Dwights made by Supro in the early 60s as well, which are a bit lesser guitars. And a friend of mine, Clive Brown, has acquired the name, and he now makes guitars under the name of Dwight. He is a brilliant luthier and finisher. And this guitar...
He's based in England,
He's based in England, he's based in Yorkshire. And
that's where Alan Holdsworth came from, and John McLaughlin.
And John McLaughlin.
Yes, come from.
And a few cricketers, apparently.
Yeah, and they love drinking bitter.
Brown beer.
Brown beer. You do not drink lager in Yorkshire. Under any circumstances.
How you get lynched. And anyway, so Clive has a lot of experience with vintage instruments, and one of his particular things is he's always collected old Juniors, so he knows a Junior well. And he makes these guitars, and as you know if you've seen previous videos, I live in a house full of 50s and 60s real guitars. This guitar, made 2.5 years ago, feels and sounds exactly like it should if it was made in 1958-9. It's absolutely remarkable. It's got a pickup made again by Matt at Monty's, a PAF made by Matt, and Clive was so impressed with the pickup that Matt made for me that he now installs Matt's pickups in all his Dwights. He makes SGs.
Matt's pickups are really, really good. If you haven't tried them, we suggest try them out.
They're very good. I mean, he's a proper he's a proper high-end pickup winder and repairer.
I mean, I just want to say myself, my favourite pickups are Mojo pickups. But if I had to choose another make, it would be these ones.
And of all the pickups, all the PAFs, Matt has done a lot of work on PAFs. He's been lucky enough to work with a lot, including my own PAFs. And these are the PAFs he makes, and they're pretty damn good. My favourites are Monty's, and also from Oxford in England, OX4s. Again, if you haven't heard an OX4 PAF, well worth a listen. All the ones I've heard have been amazing. I don't own any. I love them. Really good. Anyway, so this is a Dwight. Now when you pick it up, it's a light guitar.
Very light.
Big neck.
Yeah.
Regular, plastic button Clusons. I mean, it's an Explorer Junior.
Should we do some playing?
And it goes like the wind. Little Major Minor thing going on there. Oops.
Very nice.
So, ladies and gents, that is 5 kind of pointy-ish guitars. None of them from the old days, but all of them trying to somehow recapture some old vibe. Now, spoiler for what I said earlier, a number of you rather enjoyed when I was unboxing all of my really old clobber. Got a lot of views. I'm delighted to tell you that in the next few weeks and months we're going to be doing quite a lot more of that, because I've managed to gain access to several other collectors whose collections I think are just bloody fantastic, and I hope you do too. So watch this space, because Ramon and Bob on the Guitar Show are going to be unboxing and showing off quite a few more really fantastic.
It's crazy instruments. Yeah. Crazy stuff coming.
Yeah.
We're going to blow your minds.
Yeah, quite a lot of stuff. So keep watching. Thanks.
Thanks a lot.